On today's episode of AVSocial, we talk Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and what the new up-and-coming platforms are. All that and more on this episode of AVSocial.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVSocial, episode 47, Feed the Monster.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box.
Hi everyone, I'm Dawn Mead and we're here with another AVSocial for you. Today, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are pretty much the dominant social networks for business, and we post and share and like our way through every day. These social networks are also a way for our companies and brands to connect with clients and potential customers. So what's the next big platform? What's the next big thing? How do you best utilize the ones that are currently on top and what might be coming next? On today's AVSocial, we're going to be discussing the best way to leverage the top sites currently, as well as how to spot the next networks and opportunities that are rising, and when to jump on board. As always, I'm here with my lovely co-host, Miss Kelly Perkins, and she's going to introduce you to our guests today. Hey,
Thank
Kelly.
you, Dawn. I appreciate it. And today we have Katie Regina from Spinatar.
Hi.
Abby Wolf from Corey's AV.
Hello.
And Joel Hagan from LeGrand AV. Welcome to the guy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
So let's just kind of jump right in. As Dawn said, we're going to be talking about how to keep up with all the millions of social channels out there and how to just basically keep up, which ones to use. What do you guys think? And I'll throw this to Katie and Abby because you guys work for integration companies, but what social networks are kind of the must-haves for integrators?
I think for us, we've had the most success on LinkedIn and Facebook, mostly because that business to business is really easy on LinkedIn. And Twitter is a great place to have conversations, real conversations that build relationships. And Instagram is a great place to show your culture and kind of show off the finished product, if you will. It's more polished. So I would say those four are probably our key social networks at this point.
Okay. How about you, Katie?
I would agree with Abby. We definitely utilize a lot of the LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram features to, look out for new prospects, communicate with our current customers, and really just use those social platforms to sort of stay up on trends and communicate with not only just people in the industry, our manufacturing partners, but also reaching out to potential customers where we can like and comment on some of the needs that they bring up on those networks.
Do any of you guys have Snapchat filters?
No, we don't.
I don't know. I was giggling because I stopped at a local integrator here in Minneapolis a couple of months ago, and we were talking marketing stuff or whatever, and they're like, we actually have a Snapchat filter if you come into the office. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that.
They're so cheap too. So
really?
Yeah, very cheap.
That's so weird.
That kind of thing, I know Snapchat is less business facing, but that kind of thing seems more like something a manufacturer might do for a show like Infocom or CES or something like that. Joel, you're our integrator, token integrator on the panel today. How does LeGrand, they're the integrators, you're the manufacturer, but that's something a manufacturer might do. Give us the answer to Kelly's question, which networks does LeGrand utilize the best or the most? And do you do fun things like Snapchat filters for the shows or, something a little more progressive?
Yeah, I would say our main ones are LinkedIn and Twitter. We put stuff on Facebook kind of as an also ran, but I don't spend a whole lot of time creating new content for Facebook because I find a lot of our likes on there are from people that work here. And if you're trying to, reach other people, then you have to put money into it, and there's all that kind of headache. We did do a Snapchat filter at Infocom 2 years ago. And there wasn't a whole lot of use of it. I put the the fence around the building. And I think, I don't know, it felt to me like maybe it just was a little too early, or maybe AV people aren't quite on Snapchat while they're busy at the show, to take advantage of that kind of thing, or to have fun on there.
I'm totally doing that. You said it was cheap? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty inexpensive.
Well, and I think that kind of goes to our question that, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, if you ask the kids, you know, and, you know, we're all, I'd like to include myself with the rest of you. We're all fairly young here on the panel today. And, you know, we're in the AV industry, we are the kids. But, you know, in the non-AV, non-business world, the youths of America are, you know, they've moved on to Snapchat. They've moved on to whatever else the kids are using these days, at the risk of saying, get off my yard. You know, it's one of those things that we're going to be behind the curve, I think, a little necessarily, being in the business world. But maybe now that Snapchat has caught on so much, Joel, this might be the year for you guys to bring back a Snapchat filter, or even maybe a Facebook frame, you know, for pictures, you know, that people take at the show, you know, those sorts of things.
I think we do have some things going on at the show. I'm not completely aware of, but like a photo booth kind of area for social.
Cool. Yeah.
Don't hold me to that, you know.
I mean, I got to say, personally, I have the most fun at various shows and events when they have that sort of social element, be it a contest or just like a photo booth, or a crazy, you know, scavenger hunt with pictures or those sorts of things. But you know, I'm a social media geek, like presumably the rest of you and those that are listening. So for everybody, I mean, how do you best use these social networks to connect with your current clients or to speak to potential clients? I mean, you know, sometimes I feel like when I was an integrator, we'd get on Twitter and we'd have great AV conversations with each other, or we'd have, you know, great product debates or great suggestions with each other. How do we reach our existing or potential customers through those means? Katie, let's start with you this time.
Okay. So for us, we do a lot of case studies and white papers. And I think having those platforms to share what we put together and the content that we're producing is a really key part, because I think people, whether they go to one of these social platforms to actually read your article, or maybe they're going there just to make sure you're relevant and current. I think it speaks a lot about your company if you're posting things, you know, that attest to what the customer is looking for, whether it's on, you know, a full campus, you know, AV refresh, or if it's on just a standard classroom refresh or something like that. I think if they can go there, see your relevance, see you're doing things to continue educating people out there, I think that is really important. So that's how we sort of use those platforms.
Okay. Joel, how about you?
We do a lot of that too, as well. Right now we're kind of pushing a few different ebooks that we've come up with for ADA compliance and what they call a switched classroom, or switched learning classroom, where, you know, you're not having the teacher in front of a room in front of a whole bunch of students, but it's more interactive. So we're kind of pushing those through social media and blogs, and to get people to check out the ebook and see what they can find out.
All right. So far we've got content. Abby, are we going for a trifecta, or do you have some other tricks up your sleeve that you could share with us?
I think each social network has its own win, if you will, for us. And I think that we are, instead of trying to make LinkedIn what it's not, we try to use what is working on each of those platforms and just build from there. So on LinkedIn, we've had really great success with inbox campaigns and reaching out to new customers, or talking to people, or starting discussions that we wouldn't normally have. And it's super easy there, because then you know exactly what their position is, if hopefully they're keeping their profile updated, and you'll be able to target a lot easier than you would on Facebook or Twitter. But Facebook's kind of like the dumping ground of content for us. It's kind of everything. It's the culture aspects, it's the branding aspects, it's the information, it's the links to the website, it's kind of all of those things. But then Twitter we use to have real conversations. It's the, hey client, congratulations on your 50th anniversary, or it's staying friends with people rather than a means of pushing out information for us.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then Instagram is where I personally love using Instagram for business, because we have such a great brand culture, if you will. And I love showing that off, and Instagram is such a perfect place to do that. We have another side of our company that is live events, and you can find a lot of event planners on Instagram. And so for us, that's been super successful. So successful that we actually integrated it into the homepage of our website.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend recently who reps some audio companies, and it was interesting because he's like, we need to get on Instagram. Everybody's on Instagram. And I'm like, you're a rep company. What the hell are you going to put on there? Right. But it was interesting because they work with, like, for example, QSC has a systems division, which is like audiovisual integration, but they also have a live sound division. So the systems group never uses Instagram, but the live sound group, that's like their number one platform. So I guess it just depends on your audience.
Yeah, for sure. So, that brings up an interesting question. A couple years ago, Instagram was the new thing. And what on earth are you going to put on Instagram? You're a sound company, not pictures. So, how do we find these next big things? I remember first getting on Instagram and Snapchat for that matter and saying, all right, that's cool and all, but what's the point? Or didn't know if it was going to take off. Now, they're pretty dominant. So, how do we find what the next big thing is aside from watching the 14-year-olds? Anybody have an idea? Jump right on in.
Yeah, no, I think that is a tricky question, because the platforms that we currently have available to us, we become so familiar with. So I think even considering something new, we're still trying to get caught up on what we currently have. And especially with Instagram, like Abby was saying, it's so great to share culture and to share, your company's events and things like that. But trying to figure out, okay, how do we speak to our customers? How do we reach them on that platform? I think, at least for us, we're still trying to decipher what that response is. So, we've been including hashtags in a lot of things, which we've gotten a lot of new follows from, because if people are out there looking for, and I keep going back to higher education because we do a lot there, but if they're looking for a, lecture hall and they hashtag lecture hall, then that may bring them back to our page. So we've seen a lot of that type of stuff working, but in terms of finding the next big thing, I wish I knew. Does anyone else know?
Abby, Joel?
Clients. I had a sales guy come to me about a year ago and say, oh my gosh, I found this social network. We need to be on this. We need to be on this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to ask a few of our clients. Like, we have really great relationships with some of those clients that you're trying to target. And I just give them a call and say, hey, what are you reading? What are you on social? What do you do for fun? I mean, all of these things, asking them very specific things, one, makes them feel very special that we're wanting to target more people like them, but it's just a conversation that you're having with your client, which we should all be doing.
It's a good idea. I love that.
So what about like gaming? So I'm going to just throw this out there because I think it's so weird and interesting. So I used to work with this gal, Ashton McGinnis, and she used to be in the industry when I was at AVI Systems, and her husband quit his job and is now doing professional gaming where they like basically he records himself playing a game and all of the commentary. I mean, and from our industry, coming from a fairly a techie industry, I mean, could our clients be on something like that? Is that an option, or is that just too weird?
Are you referencing Twitch?
Yes, Twitch.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Yeah. I used to work in poker, so we used to broadcast all of our events on that. And I think the people who are on there are extremely big gamers. So I don't know that it would necessarily be the right audience for us. But I think it's an interesting point to bring up. And yeah, I think maybe.
Which that actually brings up a point. It's one of my favorite questions. It wasn't on the list of questions we sent you in advance of this, but going off on my own tangent, One of the things I've always taught when I would teach social media classes is you want to go where your audience is. So if a particular social network is all 15-year-olds talking about their nails and their trip to the mall, that's not where you want to be. And, recommended people look at things like Twitch if you find that your specific customer base has a lot of gamers or esports enthusiasts. Go there. Ravelry. I worked with an ad agency one time that had a customer that owned a knitting shop, and they didn't want to talk about anything other than Facebook or Ravelry. Well, we were like, what the heck is Ravelry? It's a whole social network and sharing site for people that knit and quilt and crochet and craft, and exactly who this company wanted to speak to. Without spilling the beans or giving up your secret sauce, have we found any of these niche social media sites maybe that speak to our audience specifically? One that I know I referenced in my class previously was Spiceworks, which is for IT professionals, but they tend to be a little sheltered against people coming in to advertise. They just want to have conversations and things like that. Joel, has LeGrand come across any, I know you guys do, in addition to AV stuff, LeGrand owns everybody. So, Wall, Chaseways and Raceways and all that, are there like electrician or contractor or social media sites or anything that you've found luck with?
I'm just relegated to the AV side. So I'm not aware of what the LeGrand as a whole, what the electricians are doing.
Right.
I'm really surprised there hasn't been something like an AV-centric social media, like niche platform, like Spiceworks or something. There is a page on Reddit for AV pros, and I'll go in there, and maybe there's like a post or two a day. But yeah, and you can go into the LinkedIn groups and check those out,
right,
for more targeted conversations.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head because I've used the Reddit Facebook group or the Reddit AV group before, and the Spice In, they don't want you to sell Spiceworks. They don't want you to sell to them, but they do want to have conversations and ask you, hey, I've got this VTC thing, and what advice could you give me on blah blah, So much like the LinkedIn groups. Ladies, anybody have any leads on some good specialized social medias or groups out there that might be of interest to our viewers and listeners?
The one I was talking about earlier was called Alignable. You guys heard of Alignable?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. They send you requests all the time.
All the time. But the one thing I realized once I got in there and kind of poked around was that it was a different age demographic than what we were really trying to target. And there wasn't really it was a lot of salespeople, basically. It was just salespeople. So it wasn't necessarily, it didn't work for us, but it might work for other folks.
Okay. That's an interesting one because it's geographical, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. And it's a lot of salespeople trying to sell to each other. So
yeah, so the NSCA headquarters is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I'm in Minneapolis, and I kept getting all these like local businesses in Cedar Rapids, Iowa trying to friend me, and I was like, can't handle this anymore.
Well, they've at least got a handle on their geographic marketing, if not their
Right.
targets. So with any social network, whether they're, a little specific, random, targeted thing that we've discovered, or whether they're one of the big ones, how do you as a brand decide when to jump in? When is the time to, just take the plunge and say, okay, we're going to add this network to our already existing group of social platforms? Abby, how does it work with Corey's in that regard?
I like to think of social media as a monster that needs to be fed continuously. So I have to feed the monster, and I have to feed the monster very relevant things. And so if we don't have enough content to feed the monster, that's going to be the deciding factor for us. Like, okay, it's cool if we want to join this new platform, but how long is it going to be relevant for us, and how long can we sustain it and actually grow it? And for us, it comes down to a lot, because with one marketing person on staff, it's really hard to feed all the monsters relevant content catered to the audiences that we're trying to talk to on the platforms we're trying to use. So we stick to our tried and true, YouTube, Facebook, the traditional stuff.
Right. Katie?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Abby as well. I think it's just analyzing, who the end user is, who is on that platform, and deciding whether or not it would be a good fit for your company. Because again, I was, until about a month ago, a one-woman marketing team as well. And just pushing out stuff and trying to keep up with all the trends on these social channels, as you all know, is a job in and of itself. So yeah, just determining whether or not it's going to actually bring in more business is how we sort of determine whether or not we're going to jump on board.
And I feel like it's so overwhelming. Sorry to butt in.
Oh,
It's
no,
so
go ahead.
overwhelming as an integrator too, because you have so many audiences. So it's like,
Yeah.
you're trying to feed the beast of everything and everyone, that it gets a little nuts just to, like you mentioned, Abby and Katie, like it's just hard to just stay afloat sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And not just different audiences with different verticals, which there are, but also different audiences within companies. Because are you trying to target the C-suite that ultimately approves things? Are you targeting the end users, the admins, the gatekeepers? Who are you targeting at this behemoth of a company that you'd like to do business with, and where do they hang out? If it's a C-suite, they might not be hanging out the same place as the admin or the janitor or the whoever. Joel, I could be mistaken. It might be a little easier for a company like Legrand, since you're, targeting Abby and Katie and formerly myself and Kelly, but it might be a little more challenging. How does that work with you guys?
For targeting or for what we join?
Yes.
Okay.
Feel free to expound.
Well, for me, I'm running Chief, Daylight, Middle Atlantic, and Badio, and Legrand AV on
Oh my God.
Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
So it takes a lot for a new social media to make me even want to look at it or join it. I think there would be there'd have to be a big push from our people already on there that we have a lot of AV people or people looking up AV on this platform. Maybe we should check it out. And even then, I would probably, lately I've been having fun with TikTok, which is like the new Musical.ly, which you can push onto Twitter and Instagram, and is kind of a fun, more of a fun app that you can use. And I think maybe down the road would be something to try for brands as well, to see how that goes.
Right.
But not to, it wouldn't work to push messages. It'd be totally just for fun.
Right. So interesting. You brought up music. Abby brought up YouTube. And again, we're kind of going off our list here, but have you all found a lot of success in those sorts of media? Back a couple of years ago when I was teaching social media at Infocom, at the time, YouTube was the second biggest search engine on the planet. They've since bought or been merged or absorbed by Alphabet, by Google. But what is your takeaway on using the video and audio type platforms as opposed to the traditional written posts?
I think it's really important, especially in today's time, because people want to see video, right? Instagram sort of blew up because it was a very visual platform. People want to see photos. And I think if you're telling your story and you're sharing your experiences through video, people have a lot greater chance of being able to relate to you or relate to the people within your company, or just better understand sort of what your business goals and culture is like. So for us, we've been doing a lot more video. We recently, interviewed a couple of our customers at LMU, at USC. They gave really great testimonials. So I think that's just really powerful in today's world, to see other people talking about your business and talking about your relationship.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's, they always say a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's a video worth, right? I mean, honestly, embarrassingly, last night, I think I spent like 2 hours watching Billie Eilish music videos on YouTube. So I mean, like,
Me too.
so there's that. I mean, but I think like, and even just being on video with you guys today, it's like, I haven't met you in person, but just being able to have a conversation and, you know, so being able to show other customers testimonials of real people, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I think for the search engine capabilities of YouTube alone, YouTube is worth it. I mean, sometimes it can be a pain in the rear, but it is a very powerful search tool that can help you boost SEO results substantially. So we use it despite my personal feelings about it.
Oh, that was interesting.
Yeah, really. My thing with YouTube, and this is again something I taught in the class back in the day, and Joel, as a manufacturer, you may be able to attest to this. I think it's most powerful not necessarily in our hands for marketing, but in the hands of our techs or in the hands of our trainers in our staff. To this day, all the great production aside, sorry for all of my broadcast and production friends watching this, but to this day, the best YouTube video in the AV world that I've come across was literally a 16-second video from Pioneer Electrics on how to change the clock on my Pioneer car stereo. And it was literally 16 seconds. If you have the Pioneer model blah blah, and you need to change the time, do this. And they showed you step by step which buttons to push. You've just changed the time on your Pioneer blah blah. Thank you. 16 seconds, like no production value. Most useful video I've ever had, especially twice a year when we play the daylight savings game. And I still talk about it all these years later. I haven't had that vehicle in probably 10 years. But, you know, that's great marketing in my view. You know, Joel, does anyone from LeGrand, Daylight, any of the other 15,000 brands you're apparently representing, you know, use just quick and easy, down and dirty, here's a how to kind of video?
We're working on some of those. Yeah, there was a how-to a while back for our video wall mount where it was almost a choose your own adventure where you can, this is the problem I'm having. How do I do that? How do I vent out the top? Where do I put the lines for the quick release? And I think that went over really well.
Yeah.
We do a lot of video for, training is a big one. And more so than straight up marketing, like you said.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that kind of segs into the last question here. You know, how do you get the rest of the company on board with using or at least valuing social media? You know, telling your techs or your trainers, hey, here's a great way to add some value to the whole company that we can then use with the marketing efforts. Anyone else have a quick tip on how you would get the rest of your company engaged?
I do it in a 3-step kind of way. I share a ton of growth info. Like if something is succeeding on social media, I share it to nauseam. Like everybody's like, okay, we get it. But I do that because I really want to promote internally the wins that we're getting from social media so that when I go to the well and I say, hey guys, I need your help on this. We just spent, a couple grand on video series. I need you to share it. They're more willing to do it because they know the fruits of the labor.
Yeah. I think just constant reminders is key. As marketers, we're more open to being social and being engaging with people online. But when you're a salesperson, you're sort of eager to get out there and get the next deal signed, sealed, and delivered. But if you're showing them, like Abby does, here's what you can get from showcasing this video, or show your potential customers what this person said about us. They're like, whoa, like, okay, I see the return. I get it. And then they're more likely to get on board.
Yeah. Joel?
Yeah, with salespeople, I encourage them to just, be on social a couple minutes a day, update your status, clean out your inbox, prospect for business. You can do a little cyber stalking before your next phone call. Check up, what so-and-so has been doing lately, which will give you, a little extra edge in that call. And we invite employees to, use social media when you get someone like Mark Coxon on your team, you just let him do his thing. It's the message out.
Right. I guess what I'm hearing from a lot of you is communicate with your staff, both the value and what you expect them to help with or participate with, and kind of get everybody's buy-in is the big key.
Very much so.
Yeah. It's interesting because I just had this conversation yesterday with a coworker. My own company here at Redacted, the big secret government type place, isn't on the same page because we have one group, comms and marketing, saying, ooh, link our company on your social networks and like all of our posts and share these things. And then we have all the InfoSec and security people saying, don't tell anyone where you work or that you work here or what state you're in or that you're a human, So completely different messages. And it gets a little confusing. So communicate. If you're watching or listening to this, make sure everybody from the top down in your company is on the same page and get everyone involved, I think. Anyone, last words?
I think you guys covered it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, then let's go one last time around the table and let everyone know who you are, and where we can find you on social or anywhere else upcoming. Since we picked on them last most of the day, let's start with Joel. Joel, where can folks find you or Legrand?
Legrand is on all the social medias. Look for Legrand AV for the stuff that we do. And I'm on Twitter at chief_Joel H.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for coming today. Katie, let's go with you. Where can folks find you or the fabulous Spinatar?
Yep, so Spinatar is also on all the channels, just at Spinatar. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Awesome. No Twitter for you? No, can't find you anywhere?
No,
Don't share, that's fine.
It's Katie J07 on Twitter.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
And Abby, last but not least, where can folks find you or Corey's AV?
Find Corey's Audiovisual on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all at Corey AV. And then you can find me on Twitter at Abby R. Wolf.
And if you are a fan of the 80s actors, it's not Corey with an EY, it's just CORY.
That's right.
So don't think Feldman, think AV. And of course, my co-host, Kelly. Where can folks find you? Or NSCA?
NSCA.org, NSCA Systems on Twitter, or the Ignite initiative is NSCA Ignite on Twitter. And then you can find me on Twitter at Kelly P. Perkins. So
fantastic. Thanks for being here as always. Of course, I'm Dawn Mead. I work here for a big corporate America in a secret place in a hidden location somewhere in the United States, so don't find me there. But you can find me on AVNation.tv, hosting this show and popping up on others occasionally when Tim lets me. And you can find me, of course, on the social things at AVDawn or Dawn Mead. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on AV Social.